Welcome to The Aspiring Kryptonians, a podcast for Superman fans, hosted by Superman fans and focused around all things, you guessed it, Superman. After all, we are aspiring Kryptonians. From comics, TV, film and animation, each week we discuss our thoughts on the latest releases, news and even some retrospective reviews. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Aspiring Kryptonians podcast with me, Tasmin, and the rest of the team, Ashley.
Hi guys, hope everyone's doing well.
And Evan.
Hello, greetings from the United States.
This week we're discussing Superman issue 29, Superman and Lois episodes 2 and 3, but mostly 3. And then we're getting prepared for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we'll discuss our thoughts on Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. But before we go into that, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone that's already listened to the first episode. We got some really great feedback and a huge response that I genuinely wasn't expecting. So thank you for that. And if you do like what we've done so far, please do subscribe, share the podcast to those you think might be interested, and leave us a review if you have the time. So now we've got all the formalities out the way, let's get on to this week's topics. So first up is Superman 29. What did you guys think?
Ooh, the comic book. Did you guys see the variant cover for this thing?
Yep.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Oh, so cool. Loved it.
Yeah.
It's like this giant wraparound cover, and it's got all the members of the Superman family, the current ones anyway. It's awesome. Steel's on there, Superboy's on there.
But that kind of makes me think, are they sort of bringing them back? Are they going to be involved in the story in some way? I hope so.
I hope so too, but that's not what the writer's been saying on interviews I've heard of him. He's saying it's headed off world. So it'd be cool if they followed him off world, but I don't know.
Interesting. But yeah, that variant covers by John Timms and Gabe Altaeb, and yeah, it's just nice to see all those characters come together. And there's a few villains on there as well. I'm pretty sure Lex Luthor's there.
Moggle's on there.
Yeah.
And that's
Red Mist as well.
Yeah.
Red Mist as well. She's on there.
Yeah, yep. And that's the artist team from Young Justice.
I love him. His artwork's so good.
Fantastic stuff.
And the standard cover, which is by Phil Hester and Hi-Fi, they're the interior artist and colorist for this issue. It's really good as well. And for me, I'm a sucker when the cover matches what's happening in the actual issue, because sometimes they go off
agreed.
on a tangent. I like it when they do crossover.
Yeah, and Phil Hester is one of those artists that was all over the place in the mid-2000s, runs on Nightwing and Green Arrow. So I was so pleased to see him back, because I haven't recalled seeing him on too much stuff recently. So it's nice to see him back in the big leagues on Superman as well. Loved it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, Ashley, I got some of these notes that I've got here from your review that you sent over that we've got written on the website. But yeah, it's great to see Superman and John fighting alongside each other for once, because in the Bendis run they kind of started to, and then they were separated. So obviously John went on to Legion, and Superman went and did his thing as well. So it's nice to see them back together.
Yes, and it was very nice to have a moment where they just got to slow down and stop and address the age up thing, because I feel like that's just been rushed and glossed over. At least that's what it felt like. Just because, we got to get John off to Legion, and then Superman's busy with the Red Cloud and multiverse stuff and revealing his identity. So they didn't really get a whole lot of time to just sit down and talk about it. But I like that moment in this one. Yeah,
me too. And like you said, Ashley, in the review, the writer Philip Kennedy Johnson, he's sort of explored something in this issue that we never really thought about. And you obviously never thought about it because you wrote it in the review, Ashley. But I also never thought about it because, John knows everything that's going to happen between now and when Legion took place. So he knows when his dad's going to die. He knows when his mom's going to die. He knows everything in between and more.
Well, and that begs several questions because in the current Legion books, he still hasn't gotten through the tutorial of history yet, and so this must take place. Maybe it takes place after the Legion one is all done, which I thought is something interesting because he's in the future in Legion. It can go on forever as long as they want. and then they'll just say,
Yeah.
and by the way, now that Legion is done, go back to Superman number 29, to see where he goes from there.
Agree, but it's also the kind of thinking about how the weight that one must be on Jonathan's shoulders when he comes back to know these pivotal moments in time, these pivotal crises that the DC universe could potentially face, and he knows so much, and to not interfere. To use the term, with great power comes great responsibility from another red and blue superhero. It must be a great weight.
Yeah,
sure.
and I think with this one, like this issue in particular, he does interfere quite a bit in the fact that he doesn't want Superman to carry on with the mission. So I hope that isn't the case for all of it. So when you mentioned he hasn't finished the history tutorial yet, I hope that he still hasn't in this, and there's bits that he doesn't know.
Well, that's the next question. Is the House of L future state was written by Philip Kennedy Johnson 1,000 years in the future, and Superman's still alive. So
yeah,
what's going on there? And he said the House of L would tie into his run. So interesting.
I suppose we have to try and get him on the podcast actually and see.
That would be awesome.
Because I really liked the examination as well of the link between Superman 29 and Superman of Metropolis, because of course in that issue he's he's got the anxiety of being Superman, he's got the emotions of stepping into his father's shoes, and of course he has the same feelings in Superman 29. He's constantly worrying if he's fulfilling his father's fulfilling his footsteps to the standard that he should be, and that kind of self reflection, that reflective kind of mindset must be with him at all times. And seeing his dad working alongside his dad, who is the sentinel of truth, justice for everyone, it must be very awe-inspiring, but at the same time daunting to know that you've got to fill in those footsteps at some point, or be expected to.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Did you guys read Infinite Frontier Zero?
Yes.
Because they kind of talk about John Kent as in how not portrayal, but how his job is going as Superman, and they're kind of saying that he's not quite up to the standard, and they kind of reinforce all the feelings that he has in this issue, which is quite nice.
The Spectre,
it's nice that it links in.
Yeah. One thing I loved in that conversation in Superman 29 is where John's like, everybody's asking me, or telling me I'm going to be the new Superman. And he's like, as if Superman is just a role you can fill. It's like, it's not a position or a title. It's just you, Dad. You are Superman.
Dad. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I was like, okay, that's good.
Yeah. This issue is like, it started off a really interesting storyline. So I'm really excited to see what these guys do with John Kent specifically.
It's interesting that you guys mentioned that he's just interfering because he's going back and just telling his dad stuff. And I just finished reading some She-Hulk comics where she said that exact same thing, and she got arrested by time cops and was going to be deleted from existence. So very different consequences are happening. It's just very.
Well, it would be interesting if they did put kind of like a something in place whereby when he does travel back, maybe his memories fade or something along those lines. It would be interesting, because I do feel that it would become quite problematic if you do have a character who does know everything that's going to take place. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned about like the tutorials. I would assume that the massive events that took place in history are sort of etched in the public consciousness. Therefore, you would know them as soon as you step foot in that era. So I would hope there was some kind of way of maybe him not kind of knowing everything.
Well, much of it's established that much of the history of the 21st century is lost. So they have only have a vague idea of what happened with the age of heroes, as they call it. So yeah, it's lots of cool ideas and continuity flying around. That'll be interesting to see how things play out.
I mean, I admit I haven't read the Legion series, but it's on my list to read, and I think it's probably going to wait until I get down to it in my reading order. So I'll probably read it in about 80 years' time if I ever get to it.
It's good, and John has a love interest in there, and I love what they're doing with that. And so I'm interested to know if they're still together in this, if this is after that. I really want to see an issue where he brings the girl home to meet the parents, and see how that goes. I'd love to read that.
Well, even though I haven't read it, I actually know what happens because I read your reviews to put them on, put them on the site. So I know what happens, and I hope we get to see her as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to actually reading Legions based on your reviews because it does sound really good.
Oh, well, thanks.
You're welcome. But did you also see the second story in this issue?
Oh, I forgot about it. I read it. I'm like, okay, I've got the information for the podcast, and then I put it down, and I totally forgot about the second story.
Well, I've only written a few lines about that, but yeah, it was so good to see. Well, first of all, the story was called Tales of Metropolis Bibbo. So it's part 1, and it's by writer Sean Lewis. And yeah, it's all about Bibbo Bobowski. And
I love him.
Me too. It's so good to see him back in the pages of a comic and teamed up with Jimmy Olsen as well. That was fun.
Yeah, I have to go back and read it. I mean, I glanced at the art, and the art looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
So excited to go back and read it.
Yeah, it's really digital compared to the artwork in the other stories. So I wasn't expecting it though. I was like you. I was just flicking through the pages. I got to the last page of the Superman story, and I thought, there we go. And then I saw the extra story, so I was happily surprised. And it's really good actually. And I hope. Well, it says to be continued, so I think we're going to get more. Yeah,
they said we're going to get backup stories in all the titles going forward, I guess. So
okay, that makes sense. So seeing as you haven't read it yet, so I'll skim over that one a little bit. All right, so Superman and Lois episode 2 and 3. Now, before we hit record on this, I kind of explained that I watched episode 2 and 3 together. So they kind of blurred into one. So where I'm supposed to be talking about episode 2, I'm probably going to be talking about episode 3. So excuse the confusion.
Okay.
But yeah, well, first of all, though, it's been renewed for series 2, the series, which I'm very happy about. And it seems very early on to do that because it was announced straight after the pilot episode, pretty much.
I think it just got a great viewership. But did you hear the news that after episode 4, it's going on hiatus?
Yeah.
I heard something about that. Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah. Is it Supergirl's coming back to finish the series, and then they're going to come back after Supergirl? Is it May?
Yeah, they're coming back in May, and the reason they're doing it is because of COVID stuff. They it slowed down production, but thankfully Supergirl will be there to fill the gap.
Yeah, that's a long wait, though. I'm hooked on it now. I need my fix of Superman and Lois each week, but
well, maybe they'll show up in Supergirl. Who knows?
Well, I hope not, because it's going to mess with the tone and what we've got, which we'll go into later on. But yeah, it's so good. This series has been so good so far, and yeah. And I think we touched on this before, but I'm really glad they've moved back to Smallville. So we get to see an adult Superman in Smallville rather than a young Clark Kent, which is quite different to what we normally get.
Did I mention in the last episode that Lana doesn't have red hair again? Come on.
I don't think you did, but I've seen a few people mention that, and yeah.
I was just like, hair color is one of the easiest things to do, like either cast a person with red hair or just dye it, how hard is that? That's one of the that's like the most iconic thing about the character is she's the redhead.
Ben Affleck done it in Daredevil.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it, guys. When the sun shines on that head, you can see tints of red all over it.
No, I haven't seen Daredevil before. I think I watched it once, and that was probably when it sort of first came out. I haven't seen it for years. But yeah, in this one we also, in episode 2, we got to see a little bit more of Captain Luthor, who, so when we recorded the first one, the second episode was already out, but I had only seen the first episode, so I didn't really know much about Captain Luthor. But now that we do know a little bit more about him, I am very intrigued. Like, I want to know what's happened in his life, because he's clearly sort of broken, and he's obviously got this relationship this is probably where I'm going to go into episode 3 by accident, but he's obviously got this relationship with General Lane when they faced off against a evil Superman.
Yes, so. from a parallel world. And I'm interested to know which parallel world, because that suit that Superman's wearing looks just like the suit he wore in the Earth X crossover that they did, which is the Nazi Earth.
Oh, yeah, I guess they're definitely in a war sort of environment. But
yeah, so I'm interested to see if this is hearkening back to that specific place, or if this is just a new other Earth.
They never mentioned. Well, they didn't announce which Earth it is, and it was one of those things where they kind of put it in there, and it was just a shock, and everyone stuck to that, and they probably didn't expect people to stick to that so much. But I hope we kind of get to see the good Superman face off against the bad Superman, and I'd be interested to see how Tyler's portrayal of the two different versions of the same character would pan out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Speaking of Kryptonians, it's not, well, most of the bad guys we've seen so far have got extra abilities that humans wouldn't normally have, or the villains that we're thinking wouldn't have. Yeah. So Captain Luthor has this suit which has given him, well, he's pretty strong from what I've seen, or from what I remember, and he's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's fast. He's keeping up with Superman, flying outside the atmosphere, going around the Earth, Crazy.
So is this his battle suit, or is it something to do with the history behind the bad Superman and what's happened in his past? I don't know.
Don't know. I mean, it definitely harkens back to a Lex Luthor battle suit. It looks better than the one from Supergirl. Even though it does look like he's cosplaying Halo.
Right, Master Chief. That's what I thought as well.
Yeah. But
I saw him in the first episode at the very end. I didn't have a clue that it was. I didn't know who it was based on the way he looked. It wasn't until she said it's Captain Luthor that it sort of rung bells.
Yeah, same with me. I was like, "Who is this? Is it Metallo? Who is it?"
Yeah, and then you've obviously got the guy. I'm terrible with names, but and again, I don't know whether this is episode 2 or 3 where he's fighting someone to protect. No, he's fighting to protect Lois, and the guy that he's fighting, he sort of underestimates him and doesn't realize that he's actually pretty damn strong too.
Yeah, I didn't know what that guy's deal either is. So I thought maybe Metallo, but he never used kryptonite. But that fight scene was awesome.
Yeah, and in that fight scene, I like the fight sequence because Superman kind of used powers that he doesn't usually use in battle. So usually he's just like punching and flying people all around the place, and
that Arctic breath and that uppercut.
Yeah. Right? Oh, all the punches that connected, and just the minor special effects they put in just sold it. It was awesome.
Yeah. That I can say that one didn't. The episode didn't really feel like it had many special effects considering the other episodes. Because obviously we're flying into space, we're getting flight on is CGI, so it all felt very real, which is good.
Episode 3 was very Superman light, wasn't it? I felt.
Yeah They focused a lot on Lois and the kids, but in that episode, like I said, the special effects we're getting, some of the best moments were when they're using superpowers, but it's not visual effects heavy. When Jordan is tackling the people on the football team, that's like, oh man, like they're flying, it doesn't look like they should fly that far with the size of that guy. And it's great.
It's really good. And then obviously at the end, we've got the we don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that she's a Kryptonian at the very end of episode 3. We probably should have done a spoiler alert before we went into this, actually. Well, guys, there's spoilers in this podcast. But the lady at the end, so she completely got me by surprise because we saw her when Lois quit the Daily Planet and she walked out, and the woman said to Lois, "He's going to crush you."
Oh, I didn't realize that was the same person.
I think it was. I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it was. And then, she's obviously got these Kryptonian powers as well, but I'm just trying to figure out who the hell she is.
So I assume she was the same woman that set fire to Lois' car earlier in the the episode. That seems like her MO, setting fire to stuff. Because obviously she wiped out the Edge's goon at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been her.
On
It
the
could have
highway.
been, who was the guy taking pictures of Lois in the?
I thought that was the guy that Superman was fighting when Lois went to see. I think they look very similar. But yeah, I just want to. It's all very. And if we've only got one episode left until May, I want some answers because I can't wait until May. Who these people are.
There's a lot of ambiguity, I feel, in these last couple of episodes. Not a lot of explanation. Just people kind of coming in, setting out their stall, and then it's left for the viewer to kind of interpret, chat amongst ourselves like we are now, and then hopefully, like you say, we're going to get the answers at some point.
I hope so.
What did you guys think about the Lang family?
They're all right. I don't. I don't like the. I can't remember his name in. I know in real life. Yeah, I don't like him at the moment, but I'm sure from what they're setting up, he's going to have quite a big role to play, or he plays a big role in the series. I think he will.
Yeah.
I like Lana because you kind of sympathize for her from what sort of came out in the last few episodes, between like the family dynamics that they're having, things like that. The younger one, I don't think we've really seen very much of her other than finding out she's pretty mean.
Yeah, maybe at the funeral we saw her, but I don't think she's said anything.
Yeah, and
Sarah,
I thought she was really, really, really annoying because.
What? Really?
Yeah. I like her as the character, but when she's going off at her mom when they're sat in the diner, that just how disrespectful.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think she's a very interesting character.
Yeah.
She's not. If my daughter did that, she'd be in huge trouble. Definitely not the model child, but I'm very interested in seeing more of their. Like, I love their conversation that they had in her bedroom, trying to talk about, like, look, you don't have to tell me anything else. I just have to know why this happened in the first place.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk to me for the rest of your life, basically, but I just need to know about this. I thought that was good.
And I kind of thought the same towards the Kent boys, especially Jordan, because he's obviously the one that's got the powers so far. And I just completely feel for Jonathan because he's they all have left their original lives and they're starting up new in Smallville. But I just feel for him completely because his both of their lives have been flipped, turned upside down. And I can't say that without trying to go into the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They're both on completely different dynamics again. And I thought that the way Jordan went into the football thing and just completely disregarded how his brother would feel, I thought that was pretty harsh.
Oh, like almost every scene with him, when it was over, I'm like, he's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's got some emotional troubles, but yeah, just being the worst kind of teenager attitude,
And in episode 1, I really wanted Jordan to be the one that got the powers, but based on his reaction, I kind of want it to be Jonathan now.
Yeah.
Especially when they went to see Jor-El, and he's like, "Oh, some hologram told me my powers aren't going to be as good as Dan's." I was like, "That's your granddad."
Yeah, but he's never met him, and he's
I know. It's just respecting. Well, that episode was called Heritage, so it's just respecting the heritage, I guess.
Yeah.
Considering how important that character is to the fan base, as a whole, I kind of think that you sometimes want the characters to feel that same emotions that we do for these beloved characters as well.
See, I've never had a huge, strong attachment to Jor-El.
No,
because when I read the comics, the first ones I read was the John Byrne stuff, and he's just kind of like, it's not, I'm sending you to Earth to be an example and to save everybody. It's more like, I don't want you to die, and so I'm going to send you. This is my last resort. So it's kind of like he's just a desperate dad, going to send his son, and that's kind of the end of his role. Well, and then when he gets to Earth and he learns more about Jor-El's kind of like, okay, now it's time for you to take over the planet and make a new Krypton. And Superman's like,
we got a whole Invincible kind of story going on there now.
Yeah.
What do you think of the guy that plays him, Angus McFadden, or Fadian? I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but what do you think of his?
Definitely going for a Russell Crowe sort of feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
contemporary.
He's very stern as well, and that reminds me of sort of Terrence Stamp's portrayal of him in Smallville, because well, I'm watching Smallville at the minute, and I thought he's mean, like he's just nasty.
Well, even a bit like Brian Michael Bendis' version of Jor-El, who we saw most recently in the latest run. You know, very kind of believes he knows best, he knows what's best for the child kind of thing, when he's encouraging Jonathan to join him in space on this coming of age adventure. And he was very kind of like dislikable at times, more likable at other stages during that run. So I definitely feel like they've kind of crammed a bit of that into this interpretation as well.
Yeah, it's been rare for me that I've seen Jor-El be a nice guy. You know, like he's for Smallville, I definitely think they were going for the interpretation that they did in the 90s, where it's like when Jor-El first shows up and he's trying to brainwash Clark, Jonathan runs up and hits the hologram with a shovel, you know, and it blows up. So
and with this Jor-El portrayal, it's funny for me to watch, because he really looks like my stepdad, like the actor that plays him really looks like him. So that's all I can see, and every time he's on screen, I keep sending him pictures saying, look what you're wearing. Just winding up because he's a Batman fan.
Kyle, the guy who Lana's husband, looks just like a friend of mine, and I sent him pictures of that. I'm like, what are you doing in this? And he's a huge Superman fan. So that's good. Yeah.
And I'm used to seeing this guy with a Scottish accent, because obviously he's in he's Robert the Bruce, isn't he? I think the film is actually called Robert the Bruce. I watched it not long ago. It's really good if you haven't seen it. It's like a follow-on to Braveheart. But he's in that, and he's very Scottish, so it's weird to see him tone it down a little bit in this.
Nice. Anything else you guys want to talk about for that show?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the football scene.
Okay.
We were speaking about this just before we started today. How are they not having the same colours as the Smallville Crows from Smallville? What a perfect opportunity just to link the two together.
Yeah, that's probably why they didn't do it, because they don't want to. They don't want to say, okay, Tom Welling was, or Tyler was Tom Welling in the previous. They probably just
they could have done that though. They could have done that, because everything else is pretty. If they had done that, she is. But if they would have done that, then like you've already used Doomsday and Tallow and Zod and whoever, Darkseid. Oh, that was the worst part. You haven't seen that yet, have you? No,
sorry.
I haven't. I know it's in there. Don't worry, I've seen pictures of it. But it could have been though, and also because we haven't really talked about Lois Lane very much from those two issues. So the issues, I keep saying issues like they're comic books episodes. So in the third episode especially, it's more focused around Lois and her doing her thing, and I really liked when she tells Clark, you do your thing and I'll do my thing as Lois Lane. That's really cool. Like that. But I wonder if we will see Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, and I wonder if it'll be Jimmy from Supergirl as well. I would like that, just to keep the continuity thread running, because they've kind of got a good reason to bring in a different Lex, because it's obviously from a different, parallel universe. So it makes sense to do that, but maybe not with every other character. Right. And I hope we get to see John Cryer Lex. I think we were talking about that last week. I hope he comes back, because he was great. It seems like in the recent comics, and I think a little bit in this show, we're having Lois say, I'll do my thing, you do your thing, and it's almost like Superman keeps having to check in and be like, okay, can I save you this time? It's like, am I allowed to be watching and protecting you this time? And I just think that's interesting.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because that's very reminiscent of Greg Rucka's portrayal of Lois from the recent Lois Lane Maxi series. I see a lot of that Lois in the on-screen interpretation. So I'm liking that a lot as well. Yeah, that's a very astute observation.
One thing I wasn't sure about though is these, I don't know what they're really called, but the beepers or the alarms that is given to his family. Well, Superman's given to his family to call him when he's in need, but normally he's kind of like always, and they kind of explore this in the series, that he's always listening. He can always listen in, but he doesn't particularly always want to. But it seems weird. Like Lois is clearly in trouble, and she has to press a thing for him to turn up. That seems a bit weird to me.
Yeah, and like in previous comic books, in previous eras, he's always been like, no matter what he's doing, he always is listening for her heartbeat to make sure.
Of course.
She's okay. So yeah, I think that's interesting too. Like was it Greg Rucka you were saying his run that he just did on Lois Lane? And Lois had a good point when Clark, shows up after she almost dies, and he just like makes a public spectacle of being there to protect her. And she's like, you were showing off. I was already saved. I was out of harm's way, but then you're there, showing yourself and saying, don't mess with my unofficial girlfriend that I'm not supposed to have.
Bendis hasn't quite done that yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. And with the whole car explosion, if Lois was really in there, should be a goner, because she wouldn't know to press the device. I don't know what it's called, but the device that he gave her. Yeah. She wouldn't know to press that because it's unexpected. So yeah, that part doesn't quite make sense to me. Yes.
At the very least, it should have been a signal watch, right?
It could have been.
For real. Yeah. Like, and I get what they're trying to do, because for so long Lois has been the damsel in distress, or just obsessed with getting Superman to like her and changing herself for all that. And so now they're really driving home, no, she is her own person, she's an independent person, she's her own character. But they, like we were saying, I think they might be taking a bridge too far, where it's like, don't try to save me. It's like, that doesn't make sense. Especially because you look for danger at every single moment in your life.
She's literally, well, it's the same in the old comics as well, where you say that they kind of changed the dynamic for Lois. So she's not just a damsel in distress anymore, but the fact that she chases danger has very much been the same since the beginning of time.
Yes.
Well, since the beginning of Superman. Okay, I think we've pretty much gone well into too much detail on Superman and Lois. So if there were spoilers, well, there's loads of spoilers everywhere, and you should have watched it by now if you haven't. So
yeah, shame on you if you haven't.
So yeah, in the run-up to this, the whole big event that's happening this year, I guess. Woo-hoo. In the run-up to Zack Snyder's Justice League, we thought we would go into a bit of detail on the other films that we have in Snyderverse, and in particular Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. So yeah, well, obviously we'll do Man of Steel first. What do you guys think of it?
Man of Steel for me. Oh, sorry.
I just watched it the other week, and I have so many. I'm split down the middle on it. Because I love it because it's Superman and it's on the big screen, but there's just a lot of stuff that I feel like they get wrong, and it kind of just takes me out of it. But Ashley, I can tell you're going to be positive on this movie, so you go first.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I remember I remember the time that it came out. I mean, it was 2013, right? I remember the first piece of advertisement material we got for it was Superman in cuffs, like a poster of Superman in cuffs surrounded by the military. I thought this was a Superman for the age that we were living in at the time, a very much more darker place, a more cynical kind of environment that we were living in at the time. And I felt it was a Superman that represented those times. A darker tone was definitely felt throughout the whole movie. I knew that it needed to be heavily influenced by sort of fear, and that was very much represented in Jonathan's in Kevin Costner's portrayal of Jonathan. I thought this was definitely a man that is fearful of his son. I know a lot of people didn't like that whole sequence where he said it was discouraging him from using his powers. You've got to keep it secret. Don't let people know who you are. So I definitely think it was a representation of the time, for sure. in terms of tone, anyway.
For me, out of all, from the Snyderverse, it's my favorite film, and it's my favorite Superman film in general. Just, I think Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder brought Superman into the harsh reality, like you say, that life is now. It's because, and I was discussing this I was guesting on a podcast the other day called JFA Podcast, and we were talking about if a city already has hope, then what is the point in having this beacon of hope like Superman? And in the city, or the world that we have in the Snyderverse, is very dark and it needs that hope. So it just reinforces the fact that Superman is needed.
For me, I'm one of those people who didn't like anything with Jonathan Kent in that movie. Not a fan.
He was very polarizing, without a shadow of a doubt.
Except for the part where, Clark's like, I just want to be your son. He's like, you are my son. Like, what are you talking about? I like that part. And Kevin Costner's portrayal was fantastic. I thought he was a great choice. But the character moment choices, especially the tornado scene, I just have to, like, I think from now on, I'm just going to have to skip that scene. Because every time I watch him, like, this is dumb. That's just my opinion. But I did not enjoy that.
I think that's probably my least favorite part of the film, but that's not to say I don't particularly like it, because I understand why they've done it, because it really does showcase, like, it reinforces the fact that he doesn't want him to use his powers in front of people, and that's like the most critical time that he could break that, and he still chooses. Well, he's telling them not to, so I understand why they've done it, but I think there probably could have been a different way for John.
Yeah, because like Clark could have gone and got the dog, like, honestly, and just say, I miraculously survived, come on. But I just think it betrays the character of who Jonathan Kent is and always has been. Like, this is like the one thing in all of his history where he's portrayed this way, so it's very much a departure from just the core of who that character is. Where
you've got to switch up a bit, because I think there's only so many times you can show someone having a heart attack. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. Well, I hate it when they have Pa Kent die, because in all my comics growing up, he's alive, and in Lois and Clark, he's alive. So, and I came to the Donner stuff later. So, when he died, I'm like, oh, this is an interesting choice. I'm not. Yeah. It seemed more like Spider-Man to me than Superman when he passed away.
It definitely felt like a more contemporary way of killing the character off. I mean, obviously that part of the world, I'm not too keyed up on sort of disasters or that sort in the States, but I know that part of America is susceptible to like twisters and severe weather, and I know that America's obviously had its fair share of natural disasters over the years, sadly due to weather conditions such as that. So I thought it was quite contemporary, and I definitely a new take on Jonathan's passing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, I loved in the movie, like, Krypton, all the Krypton stuff. Where's that show? Like, make that a whole movie, just set on. Yes, they did, and that show was awesome. But I wouldn't mind a whole movie just about that, because that planet was so cool. And
and I think that was pretty much one of the first times we've really seen Krypton, other than just silver background, silver costume. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love General Zod. I thought he was.
Michael Shannon nailed it.
Yeah, he's almost the main character in that movie to me, like, because for Clark, like, he really doesn't talk a lot, and so we don't necessarily get a whole bunch of his inner thoughts about stuff. And then there's a couple of lines he says that I'm just like, Superman wouldn't say that here. And so that kind of takes me out as well. But I am not one of the people who is mad about the neck snapping thing, because General Zod is one of the only people ever that Superman killed on purpose because he had to in the comic book. So I'm like,
Yeah, I agreed. I thought that was totally I thought it was totally within the realms of possibility that he should have done that to Zod. And Michael Shannon's interpretation delivers one of Tasman's favorite lines from that movie.
What's that?
Which one?
About training on a farm.
Yeah.
I do like that one, and I use that quite a lot in real life.
You do? When do you use that line?
Always. Whenever I can, even if it doesn't make sense. You train on a farm. Yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, the whole General Zod neck snapping thing, I agree with it, because General Zod literally says to him, if you don't kill me, I'm just going to keep coming. And he's going to kill everyone he loves and everyone on the planet to obviously make it into the Krypton that he has sworn to protect.
Yep. And you know, the Phantom Zone is closed forever. Superman doesn't know how to open it. You know, so there's nowhere to put him.
And he has the capabilities to do it. I mean, where Batman is continually taunted by the Joker, you know, how many people have died because you've let the Joker live? The Joker is just a man, and he has limitations. But Zod, he can do it. He can carry out his threat. How many people can he kill if Superman lets him go, and for a split second even?
Yeah. I just wish Superman had given him, like, before they started fighting, I wish Superman had given him one more chance to, like, turn around,
repent,
and say, you know, but instead he's like, you're a monster and I'm going to stop you. And so it's like, okay.
Literally does say that.
Yeah.
I think with that though, I think the moment that Superman chooses the people of Earth, that's when that's it. That's when all hell's unleashed. And I don't think, regardless of him giving him a chance to explain or to come to the good side, I think that's just the rule in between them, that as soon as he proves that he is protecting the people of Earth more than he's going to protect Krypton, that's...
Well, for sure, but I just wish he would have said it, you know?
Yeah.
But I do love that part where he's like, Krypton had its chance, sorry. And that's that's a great one. That's a great part.
Yeah, I know, of course, Faora, I think she kind of was one of the characters that really kind of captured people's imagination and wanted to see more of. I know she kind of appeared shortly after in the, I think it was the Charles Soule Superman Wonder Woman series. So I know she has a massive impact as soon as she kind of made her appearance. She was awesome in it. The way she used super speed.
That fight scene is just amazing. Like, it's the first time we've really seen, at least in live action, the super speed really being put to use how it would be put to use if people had this stuff.
Yeah. She's such an underrated villain. Like, when you think of villains, you're thinking of the big ones like General Zod and Doomsday, and I think she's just underrated. I love her. And
she was merciless.
Yeah, she was just, and the whole good death of his own, I can't even speak. A good death is its own reward. That saying just gave me chills, and I kind of wanted her, and I know it probably wasn't going to happen, but the I don't know, can't remember the general's. It's not the general, but the soldier's name. I can't remember.
Yes, yeah.
He's kind of. They have a little thing going on, don't they? Because they're always
yeah.
Yeah, they always end up facing off against each other. So I quite like that, and I kind of wanted them to end up getting stuck in the Phantom Zone with each other. Do you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been incredible.
I really like that they had Professor Hamilton in there. I really liked his character.
Yes.
And I wasn't happy with Pete Ross or Lana Lang's portrayal. Like, I feel like Zack Snyder just doesn't know what to do with the side characters. Like, as we'll see in Superman Batman, like with Jimmy Olsen. Like, who even is this character? What does he do? Let's just shoot him in the head.
A completely alternate version of Jimmy as well.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think of the, I think one of the big talking points that came out of the movie and was the needless destruction of Metropolis? I know that was quite controversial at the time, and you know, the Warner Brothers execs really made sure to hammer it home in Justice League that the city was abandoned. I think they mentioned it so many times. The city is abandoned, by the way.
That was Batman v Superman too. They did that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the island. We must say it's an abandoned island. No one's going to get hurt. No collateral damage. I, for one, felt that it needed the stakes to be that high. I felt that this needed to feel like a populated city. This needed to feel like mass casualties.
Yeah, his main focus. This is the first time he's been Superman. Really, this is the first time he's faced off against someone, especially with his own sort of skill set. So in his head, he's not going to be thinking about, oh, I'll just clean that window. Oh, let me just get that glass. He's trying to stop Zod. I think you can't have I think when you look at it, every superhero fight has destruction. Do you know what I mean? You can't not, especially with their powers as well.
Well, I agree with you guys. Like, I think that really spoke to the stakes, and like we talked about last week a little bit, it made it for a great intro to Batman v Superman and for Batman's motivations. And this is his first outing as Superman. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he was trained on a farm. You know, like he doesn't know battle tactics. You know, he's just swinging and trying to save people and stop this guy.
Exactly.
But then it definitely added to the whole story, though, didn't it? So obviously, when we're saying in Batman versus Superman, it gave Batman a reason to hate him or to start that vendetta against him.
And if you're creating a universe, the Battle of Metropolis is the perfect ground zero for everything to flourish out of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, the death toll, the loss of life, the casualties. It really was, in that universe, a momentous occasion. It was the dawning of the Superman, and I think it needed to be felt like that. I think the ramifications needed to be that vast and for everyone to feel it. It needed to be something big.
Yeah. What did you think about Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White?
Oh, loved it.
Yeah,
loved it.
Yeah.
He delivers another one of my favorite lines in the film. It was just like, water, wet. I love
that. Oh, what is it when he's talking to Jenny? Where does he go? Where does he keep going? Jenny, where does he go? Love it. Such good style, such good comedy timing, and did he deliver the line? Oh, no one wants to see the headline Clark Kent versus Superman.
Yeah, which brings us nicely because that's from Batman versus Superman. So thoughts on that film?
I really like that one a lot. Especially the ultimate version.
That's actually a good idea. I think we should talk about, really, first of all, just off the bat. Obviously, there are two versions of that film. There is the theatrical version, and there is the ultimate cut. And the theatrical version, in my opinion, was a travesty. It made no sense. It made no sense whatsoever. It cut out one of the most crucial scenes of the movie that is felt moving forward. Obviously, when some call him the KG Beast. I know him best from Jurassic, from Heartbreak High. It sets fire to the bodies out in the desert. And I felt that was pivotal. They touch on that moment multiple times throughout the movie. When me and my friend saw General Lennox, Harry Lennox is the actor, holding the bag with a bullet, it made no sense.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like there are two films out there, and the ultimate cut is a masterpiece for sure.
It's much better. It gives Clark a lot more motivation and fleshes out Lex Luthor's plan a lot more, and it just makes more sense.
Yeah, that's it. It really, well, I'm just repeating what you pretty much said, but it just adds to the story. And like I said, there's moments in the theatrical cut that you're just like, why are they doing that? That doesn't make any sense. And this goes a long way to sort of explain those gaps, I think. And
I mean, Ben Affleck he's my Batman. I mean, like, he's, Henry Cavill might not be, my favorite Superman, but Ben Affleck is my favorite Batman. I mean, he's live action anyway. He's just so good.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that a little last week as well.
Yeah, kudos to the man, because I mean, he's in his 40s and he's built like a tank. For starters, I mean, this Batman, in my opinion, is like a UFC fighter. Especially when he's in the costume.
He's doing a workout scene, isn't he? And he's like doing pull-ups with a chain and a big tie.
Yeah. You can't knock the man's commitment to the character. He is incredible, like you say. I loved him. You can really sense that he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing else but the mission. For the first time in a long time, Bruce Wayne definitely is the mask. And Batman is the true face of this character.
Yeah,
I loved his interpretation for sure.
I lost a few bets on this film, I'll be honest. So, obviously, as a Superman fan, and everyone was like, "Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win?" I was Team Superman, and I thought Batman doesn't stand a chance. So I lost a few bets and money on that film. So when I first watched it, I wasn't very pleased that happened, but I understand why it did happen, because if it was the other way around, then Lex would have gotten his way, and do you know what I mean? The whole thing wouldn't happen.
I mean, you look at what Superman did in the rest of the movie, and he's he's not necessarily acting a lot like Superman, where it's just like he's not talking to Batman. He's not trying to talk sense into him. He's not trying to reason with him until the very end when he needs to, and then he kind of half-heartedly tries and fails. Yeah. Same thing with Lex Luthor. Like the first thing out of Superman's mouth that he ever says to Lex Luthor is, "I'll take you in without breaking you." That's not something Superman would open with. Agreed. You know, like, come on.
What I did think about, I think it's the same scene, and he's Lex has thrown the pictures of Martha at Superman when she's all tied up.
Oh, that was grim.
Yeah, that was horrible. But when Superman looks up and he's got those red eyes, you can see the fear in Lex Luthor. You can see him, like, he literally shook him to the core. I like that.
Without a shadow of doubt. I mean, my favourite moment from that film is obviously the whole "Do you bleed?" line. That just really kind of
that's another part where I'm like, come on, Superman, like where he's just like, the bat is dead, call this mercy. And that's all you're saying, and then he's gonna fly away. Come on. And he didn't even use his X-ray vision to see that it was Bruce Wayne. Obviously, you should do that.
I'd like to think there was some lead behind that count.
I think Batman never enough to put the lead in. And I thought when I first watched the film, or the first couple of times I watched it, I thought the same when I think Batman shoots the kryptonite bullet and he literally catches it in front of his face, and then it goes off with the kryptonite. It was like a smoke gun rather than a bullet. And I thought, how did he not see that was kryptonite? But Batman's clearly knows about the lead thing.
Well, clearly, I mean, Zack is very much a fanboy of Frank Miller, isn't he? I mean, he worked closely with him on 300, and there are a lot of Frank Miller. There's a lot of Frank Miller in this movie, isn't there? Panel for panel, and like you said, with the smoke grenade and
coming through the wall and getting that one guy.
Oh yeah, amazing.
He loves The Dark Knight Returns.
Straight from RoboCop.
Well, and when you talk about the kryptonite bullets and stuff, Superman has never encountered kryptonite before at this point, you know. So he doesn't know what to expect. He doesn't see that coming, you know, whatsoever.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
My favorite moment, and this is a weird favorite moment in this movie, is when Superman appears for his Senate hearing, and he's just walking through the courthouse.
Yes.
And he's just the biggest guy in the room, and he's just gigantic. And he walks up to the little swingy door, and he just, you know, like walks through it, because he's the most powerful man in the world. But he's like,
I'm surprised they didn't just fly off.
Yeah, like he just he's obeying the rules, and
I like
coming in humbly and honestly, and it's great.
Yeah, it's the same in Man of Steel when he's got the handcuffs on, and he's like, great, and he's like, But
I love that part because like when he moves his hands apart, there's like no resistance. Like, you know, somebody else would do it and be like, and then it would break, but it's just like, whoop.
Like it was made up string.
There's nothing.
Put that sound effect in there, so like,
Well, I mean, it'd be remiss not to discuss a big key point that would later on feature in the Zack Snyder's Justice League, and of course, it's the nightmare sequence. Ripped, I think, heavily from sort of one of our favorite writers, Tom Taylor. His Injustice, Gods Among Us run, where Superman kind of flips out and becomes a despot.
I haven't read those comics, but I've played the game, so I know roughly what it's all about, because I played the story mode, which is pretty good. But yeah, I don't know why, but obviously Superman stands for everything that's good, but I always love seeing him go a little bit rogue sometimes.
Yes.
I don't know, I do. It's just I don't know what it is.
I agree.
I think
one of my favorite episodes of Smallville was the episode, I think it was called Crimson, and it was of course Lex and Lana's baby shower or coming out kind of party, and Clark throws the little rattle, and then later on down in the barn, what did he say? Something like, "You don't even know how to play the game," and he's pushed in through a wall. And I too love it when Superman goes rogue, I must admit.
I like it when he, you know, pushes it a little, but I don't like, and I think it's because they've in so much recently, it's just like Superman's evil. Everything, he's evil because that's the only way he can be cool. And I think that's the general, attitude. And I'm like, I'm not for that, man. Every once in a while, sure. Like I like Ultraman's fine. And I really like just Superman from the Justice Lords, from the animated series. That was awesome.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I like him. I want my Superman to be just Superman. I know we've had a lot of Superman shows, but I just want him to be. Let's keep it going.
So I kind of felt like what you were talking about with the launch of the New 52. I felt that they were going for a more brash, and kind of more rough around the edges kind of Superman, exactly like what you're talking about, less refined and a lot more edgy, which obviously is not everyone's cup of tea. So I totally agree with you on that one.
But I love in that bit, and I think they put it in the trailer, and that's what really got me hyped. I was like, is Superman bad? Like, what's happening? But when he's got all those people tied up, I'm doing like the action here, but he's got all the people tied up, and he just lasers through the middle of them.
Oh yeah,
mercilessly.
Well, all the parts in that dream sequence where they had the Jack Kirby stuff, like the parademons and whatnot, I was freaking out. I'm like, it's parademons on the big screen. It's like, what is happening? And then right after that, when the Flash comes in from the future, I was fangirling.
That was one of those things that from the Justice League film, the previous Justice League film, that we saw it in that, and it just wasn't explained. And I'm like, what was that for? So it was just so good. I love Batman versus Superman. I think it's the second half is probably, if it was just the second half, I think that would be my favorite Snyderverse film.
Okay.
Because as soon as Wonder Woman comes in, and first of all, Wonder Woman's entrance is epic, and I think for me, hands down, that's the best superhero entrance or introduction that we've ever had. And the music, everything, I love her.
Well, I just recently watched the first Wonder Woman and then Batman v Superman right after, and I love doing it that way because it's just just a continuation. And it just flows together so smoothly. I loved it. What do you guys think of Lex Luthor and Doomsday?
I like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we see enough of him, to be honest. And because of the way, I think a lot of people, because of the way he looks, like he's quite scrawny and he's really. People underestimate the character when. Fans of Superman will know how manipulative this guy is, and he isn't actually. When he puts the sweet in that guy's mouth, that just makes me...
what a scene! What a scene!
He's definitely not like comics Lex Luthor, but he's just evil. Like every scene, you're like, oh, this guy is bad. And he's a bad guy.
Granny's peach tea thing, you can see she sees the tea bit on the end after she's had a sip of it.
She's visibly shook, isn't she?
And she's just like, hold on a minute. That bit is disgusting.
I think Zack Snyder is very good at casting polarizing individuals, isn't he? He definitely has a vision in his mind, and it's left for the audience to kind of just go with it. Because like Jesse for me was quite a unique choice. But I thought he was great. Like you said, that whole scene with the sweet. Would you let someone stick a sweet in your mouth like that?
No.
No.
I think not. Mind you, if that was a cheeseburger, I probably would have had his arm up at the elbow. So, but I loved him. I thought he was great. And Doomsday, and a very creative way of getting Doomsday into a film. Obviously, he's got like a very kind of interesting backstory himself. One that takes a lot of time probably to portray into a film. Obviously, he's evolved over many years, and this was a quick and easy way to get him into a film without
and keep his Kryptonian roots and all that.
Exactly.
I like that it's General Zod as well, pretty much, because it's like a full circle for him as a character, because he obviously, him and Superman had it out in Man of Steel, and he literally fulfills his wish and he does kill Superman. So I kind of like that whole full circle thing about it.
I was not being okay with it until the bones started coming out, and then I'm like, okay, we're good.
But then that was quite good evolution of character.
And the visuals from that fight sequence where they're both using the heat vision
Yeah.
And on each other, and it's just like a bolt of light. That bit is it's just epic to see. It's so visually stimulating. It's so good.
Yeah. I didn't see it coming as well. I mean, obviously, I for that movie, I didn't watch the trailers. I recall watching the trailers after the fact, after the movie, and I know they do feature him in it. I would have loved that film.
That's the one gripe I had with the film, is that they put Doomsday in the trailer, because any Superman fan knows that if he's Doomsday, you know what's coming. So
Doomsday certainly does. He certainly does mean something to fans, doesn't he? I mean, in like across the board, like Conquest to Invincible fans, the Governor to the Walking Dead fans, Doomsday to Superman fans. You know, the mere mention of that name means something significant. So I definitely felt they could have perhaps used it out of the advertisement.
And the whole Jimmy Olsen thing, then quickly to go, because we kind of talked about it briefly, but I don't really get why they did that.
Such a departure from what we know.
And
it's very contemporary.
All that it was Jimmy Olsen. It took me at least maybe like 3 or 4 watches and people saying it's Jimmy Olsen for me to be like, oh my god, it is Jimmy Olsen.
But does he not say his name in it?
Yeah, in the extended cut. Again, I think it's Zack this is my interpretation. I don't know this for sure, but I feel like he doesn't understand the importance of characters like Jimmy and Lana and Pete Ross and stuff like that. And maybe to him, they're just background, back matter names that like, oh, I'll just cherry pick you. Oh, I need a photographer in this scene. Who's a photographer in the Superman mythos? Oh, Jimmy, we'll put him in there. And when Pa Kent's talking about how the Lang farm got washed away, I think it's just a name. What's a name from the lore we can use, and again, I don't know that, but I feel like that's what comes across to me. It's like, I don't see these as, pivotal characters like Lois or Perry,
Because there was chatter at the beginning of during the Man of Steel that Jenny was supposed to be a gender switch for
Jimmy.
For Jimmy, was it?
I thought it was the other guy. There's a guy that keeps he's like, he says to Lois, "Oh, Perry wants to see you now. He's really got it in for you." I thought it was that guy. I thought that's
Steve Lombard.
Yeah. I thought that was Jimmy at first.
And there's definitely a different interpretation of Steve Lombard too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to wrap this up then, we talked about these 2 films in particular for a reason. So this Thursday sees the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, which we have been waiting for a long time. Yeah, I'm so excited. So we just wanted to run through our thoughts of the films that have come out so far, so we can sort of lead up and run up to that, because episode 3, which will be out next Sunday, is a full in-depth discussion of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So if you haven't seen the film by then, do not listen to the podcast, because we will ruin every single thing for you from the film.
We promise.
Moment.
Well, thank you guys for listening again, and we'll see you next week for an in-depth review of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye. You've been listening to the Aspiring Kryptonians podcast. For more information about us, head over to our website over on theaspiringkryptonian.com, where you can find our social media handles, our weekly written comic reviews, and you can also contact us via the website. A huge thank you to you for taking the time to listen to the podcast, and until next week, we bid you farewell. And remember, we aren't birds and we aren't planes. We are the Aspiring Kryptonians.